para mí es un gran honor tener en nuestro programa a David Walsh, sin lugar a dudas una de las voces más singulares, no solamente de la crítica estadounidense, sino de la crítica en general. Es una voz muy particular, en principio, porque es el editor de arte del sitio conocido como World Socialist Website, wsws.org. Y es un sitio que, además de ser un sitio de la Cuarta Internacional Socialista, tiene una de sus secciones, está vinculada fundamentalmente al cine, no solo al cine, pero al cine en particular, es donde él se destaca con una pluma única. David, is really, as I have been saying in Spanish, a great honor to have you here in the context of FICUNAM, but also for our program El Cinematógrafo. First of all, I would like to talk to you a little bit about the state of affairs in cinema, not only American cinema, but cinema in general. What is your perspective on cinema? What is the trends that you are detecting nowadays? And I would like to start from that point.
Okay, that's a big question.
It is, but you are the one.
Well, of course, we're quite critical of the present state of cinema, from the point of view that it doesn't present an interesting or rich enough view of life. And I think many questions are involved in that, historical issues, present political situation, the last several decades of political stagnation and reaction. I think the sort of absence of big struggles has had a certain effect on filmmaking, certainly in America. There are certainly very interesting people working. There are flashes of genius. There are remarkable, and of course it's interesting because you see the capability to create almost any kind of image imaginable today. You know, fantastic. And also even sometimes you see historical pieces that do incredible reconstruction of historical events or settings or costume design, and yet the substance, the content is often very weak. So it's not a question that, as we say, the spark of human genius has gone out, not at all. But there's been a particular deterioration in those fields, I think, like fiction and drama and theater, which inevitably deal with human social relations. That's where in other words, medical science, for example, incredible advances. Technology, obviously. Film technology, incredible advances. And yet a deterioration, a retrogression in those areas that treat the social organization and the social relationships. Why? I think it has to do with some of the traumas and difficulties of the 20th century. In terms of present-day trends, I think the important schools have not yet emerged. I think we have to be careful sometimes, as I'm sure you know, the sort of media creation of the new Scottish wave, the new Naples wave. It often turns out to be very empty. It turns out to be a kind of media event. You know, there are interesting people, as I say, I've seen things here that are quite remarkable. Every film festival I go to, I have almost the same experience. Now sometimes it's in Toronto where it's much bigger, it's a somewhat different experience. But it's repeated, which is the first couple of days I'm there, I think, oh God, what am I doing here? You know, there's nothing. And then suddenly you see something and you say, aha, someone has a brain, someone sees something and does something far beyond what you expect, in fact, you know. And I think I've had the same experience here. There are people with extraordinary insight, artistic sensitivity, and a sense of the social whole, but they're isolated, and often also, which is a problem, they don't sustain it because there are intense pressures, intense difficulties, and I think those difficulties ultimately are social, historical, and character. You know. Again, as I said this morning, I think the big question is a change in the social atmosphere, big social movements. I think the skepticism and pessimism will break up. It won't disappear. It won't solve everything. But I think a different social atmosphere will have an enormous impact on cinema, which is so bound up with mass sentiment, the atmosphere, the social atmosphere. You know, so I think there are big problems. But I think there are incredible capabilities and possibilities with the technologies that exist, as I said, if you combine that with a higher level of understanding of the social organization and of the historical problems. Bring those together and...
Any reader who eventually reads what you write, it will find immediately that every film that you approach, your critical approach, is always historical and political. You always contextualize that through those bases. So I would like to, if you can explain us, why do you think that is essential nowadays to contextualize a film, which many people who are writing nowadays film criticism, it seems to be that there is no history, there is no politics, like if cinema was an autonomous reign or autonomous realm.
Or as if it all began in 1990 or 1975, yes. You know. I mean, well, obviously the effort to trace problems and processes historically is something that's very critical to us as Marxists. But I would say, would you go to a doctor who says, well, I don't really study medical science, I'm not terribly interested, you know, but I have a sense of what your problems are. Let's cut something out here. I mean, isn't it what we call in English quackery, charlatanry? Now, you know, unfortunately in art, quackery and charlatanry is often very well paid. But I think either from the point of view of the art making or the art criticism, how can you understand this without understanding how it came to be? And when you deal with art, you know, the artist is not an empty machine who creates form. He's a living, or she is a living human being living in very definite social circumstances and historical, which have one way or another shaped him or her. You know, as Trotsky says, even madness, you know, must reflect this world. What else can it reflect? You know, delirium, fantasy, still reflects this world. Pardon me, where else can it come from? So, to historical criticism is absolutely decisive to us. And then, from this point of view, what has the artist known? What has been his or her experience? What historical big social experiences has she or he passed through? What was the atmosphere into which he or she was born? I think it was Lunacharsky who said, "Let me be born a genius, but let me be born at the right time." You know? Look, I can give you an example. 1770, okay? Beethoven, Wordsworth, Scott, Turner a few years later. What's the big event? The French Revolution. They're 18 years old when the French Revolution happens. I was 18 years old when May, June happened in France. You know, those things have an impact. Now, you can't blame someone if they don't happen to be born in the right circumstances. But to sort out the historical continuity, and as I say, what was the atmosphere? What did the artist see as possible under the and that's not to indict the artist. The artist, in a certain sense, is a product and a victim in some cases of history. You know? The atmosphere that, for example, the atmosphere in 1968, 69 through the early 70s is very different than if you were 18 or 19 in 1980. Certainly in the United States, and I think everywhere. Obviously in Argentina you had dictatorship. But in the United States you had Reagan and Bush and the end of and it was a very different mood. And you see many of the filmmakers, I think people like the Soderberghs and the Coen brothers and these people essentially grew up under very reactionary times. And I don't blame them for those difficulties. You know, you had a very nasty mood in the middle class in particular, selfishness and, you know, worship of money, and, you know, and of course they didn't go that way, but they still were affected by that very bad climate. So we try to figure out what sort of historical either advantage or weakness that the artist found himself, or what corner he was trapped in. You know, Baudelaire in 1848 is very different than Baudelaire in 1860. Very different. He was part of the revolution in 1840. He was very discouraged by its defeat. It creates a very different art. So I think that's what we're always trying to do, is to read these pieces above all historically.
Un comité immédiat je crois quand même, c'est que tout ce qui est un peu digne et important s'arrête en France. Et je ne sais pas sous quelle forme il faut le faire, mais je sais que cet après-midi ou ce soir, on doit annoncer dans ce qui reste de l'information, puisque les journaux ne sont plus acheminés. Mais il faut que les radios au moins annoncent que le Festival de Cannes est arrêté. Ou si on n'annonce pas qu'il est arrêté, il faut qu'il soit considérablement transformé pour que l'information soit nette et précise. Parce que vu de l'extérieur, le Festival de Cannes, c'est quand même... Vous savez ce que c'est, voilà. C'est la réception de cette nuit de M. Barclay, je veux dire. Et ça, il faut que les gens comprennent bien que ça s'est arrêté.
No te muevas de la pantalla, pero antes te quiero recordar que nos puedes encontrar en Facebook. Estamos como el Cinematógrafo, programa de televisión. Ahí nos puedes dejar tus críticas, comentarios, podés leer algunas de las críticas que nosotros colgamos. Es un buen modo de encontrarnos. Quiero agradecer especialmente a Belén Fontana, que es quien nos maquilla todos los jueves, y a Tienda Sixo, que es quien viste a Roger.
Ley de Promoción del Trabajo Registrado. En 2015, asignamos 4.100 millones de pesos para estimular a las empresas que tengan registrados a todos sus trabajadores. Sí, escuchaste bien. Este beneficio incluye a los 300.000 empleadores de microempresas, que son nada menos que la mitad del total de los empleadores del país. Estas empresas pagan por cada trabajador y en forma permanente el 50% de las contribuciones patronales y tienen un descuento similar en el seguro por riesgos del trabajo. La norma también contempla estímulos diferenciales a la contratación de nuevos trabajadores en las pequeñas y medianas empresas. Más información en www.trabajo.gov.ar, porque nuevas reglas es más beneficios, más derechos y más inclusión.
Estoy entrando al lugar. El ambiente se ve prometedor. Es un pequeño paso para el hombre, pero un gran salto para la juventud.
Programa Primer Paso del Gobierno de Córdoba. Cada año, 15.000 nuevas oportunidades para empezar a trabajar. Programa Primer Paso 2015. El primer paso es el gran salto.
¿Te acordás que hace poco te contamos que los consumidores íbamos a estar mucho más protegidos? Es porque ya implementamos un nuevo sistema de solución de conflictos. Si tuviste problemas con algo que compraste o con un servicio que contrataste y la empresa no te dio una respuesta adecuada, ahora tenés Consumo Protegido. ¿Cómo funciona? Te comunicas con Consumo Protegido y vas a una conciliación donde la empresa, vos y un conciliador van a buscar llegar a un acuerdo para solucionar tu problema. Es gratis para vos y obligatorio para la empresa. Y como el conciliador es especialista en temas de consumo, no hace falta que vayas con un abogado. ¿Viste qué fácil? Los consumidores ya estamos más protegidos. Más información al 0800-666-1518 o www.consumoprotegido.gov.ar. Consumo Protegido, siempre de tu lado.
En todo el país, con una respuesta para cada necesidad. Auto, moto, hogar, praxis, caución. Triunfo Vida Más. Triunfo Seguros. Humberto Primo 630, Complejo Capitalinas, Córdoba, 0810-333-3838. Triunfoseguros.com.
Comprar en 12 cuotas sin interés. ¿A quién no le gusta? está bueno. Por eso en 2014, vos, yo, todos volvimos a comprar en 12 cuotas sin interés con tarjeta de crédito de la mano del Estado Nacional. ¿Y sabes qué? En 2015, ahora 12, sigue creciendo para que la industria se siga desarrollando, la inversión aumente, vos te puedas comprar lo que querés y para que haya más trabajo para todos los argentinos. Con Ahora 12 podés comprar un montón de cosas para la casa, para viajar, para vestirte, para descansar. Y en 2015 se suman nuevos rubros: útiles escolares, libros, anteojos para leer con receta, colchones. De la mano de Ahora 12 ya se realizaron 5 millones de operaciones y hay más de 110.000 comercios adheridos en todo el país. Ya sabes, vos podés comprar lo que quieras en 12 cuotas sin interés y el Estado te lo financia. Así, la actividad comercial e industrial también se favorecen. Busca el cartel identificatorio en los comercios adheridos, porque con consumo y producción, Argentina crece.
Estoy entrando al lugar. El ambiente se ve prometedor. Es un pequeño paso para el hombre, pero un gran salto para la juventud.
Programa Primer Paso del Gobierno de Córdoba. Cada año, 15.000 nuevas oportunidades para empezar a trabajar. Programa Primer Paso 2015. El primer paso es el gran salto.